Welcome to Mojoplays. I'm Ricky, and we're here at E3 2019.
We have a city to burn.
Cyberpunk 2077's world looks absolutely incredible, and open worlds have come a long way. So it got me thinking, what are some of the biggest non-procedurally generated open worlds? Well, here's Todd Habercorn to fill you in.
If you're going to go big, better go all out. But make sure you've got your proper licenses and permits. Hashtag the more you know. Keep in mind, we won't be including any procedurally generated worlds, so don't expect to spy No Man's Sky or the Elder Scrolls II Daggerfall along the way. I'm Todd Habercorn, and I've replayed the open-world Caped Crusader game Arkham Knight 4 times due to the size of the game. Well, actually, it was due to not knowing how to beat the damn blimp stage and getting frustrated, so I've started over that many times, and that has nothing to do with how big the world was. Ah, fuck it, never mind.
Let's get ready to Mojo!
Don't worry, I'm getting them back.
The Continent. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Not much happening just yet, and there may be some time before it does.
There's plenty of reasons why this game has been given the moniker of the greatest open-world game of all time, with the expanse of land known only as the Continent being one of them. At first glance, it might seem like any other fantasy world filled with dangerous creatures and even more dangerous humans. But the success of an open world comes down to how the player explores it, and with its multiple parallel dimensions, The Witcher 3 gives us one of the most interesting worlds in gaming. At an approximate 84 square miles, it is far from the biggest, but it did more with its space than most games probably ever will.
Guess everything's ready. So when's the opening?
Azeroth, World of Warcraft. Blizzard's massively popular fantasy MMORPG has grown astronomically since it was first released. Taking place in a vast mystical land, the game has been expanded on numerous times throughout the years. Each edition has brought new quests, races, and more importantly, areas to explore. This makes the exact size a bit difficult to pin down. As of June 2018, it was believed to be around 80 square miles. But that was before the Battle of Azeroth expansion, which brought 2 new continents and multiple uncharted islands. And since Blizzard shows no signs of slowing down, the world of Azeroth will most likely continue to grow, much to the delight of fans. Mira, Xenoblade Chronicles X.
Pretty wild, huh?
Most of Nintendo's titles may not be known for gigantic, sprawling worlds, but one of their premier RPG series certainly is. In this 2015 entry, the last of humanity escaped a dying Earth, only to crash land on the distant planet of Mira. As a result, players were tasked with exploring the planet's 5 continents, each of which had its own unique environment and deadly wildlife to fight against. Your character had a number of roles to choose from in terms of how they helped their people and what kinds of quests they could take on. All in all, it gave players variety in all elements of exploration and progression, which they were thankful for given that Mira was around 154 square miles. Bolivia, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands.
Guess you've been down here a while?
I've been living as Karen Bowman, international aid worker, for just about 5 years.
Ubisoft was already famous for crafting vast open worlds in their games before this 2017 release, though unlike every other entry in the tactical Ghost Recon series, this is the only one that has let players roam freely. Taking place in a fictionalized Bolivia, the team sought to drop players in something a little more realistic. Players had to travel through 9 types of terrain, from dry deserts to thriving forests. The day-night cycle and weather system only made it more interesting to explore. Unlike many open-world games, the 170 square miles of Wildlands is completely open to explore without players having to unlock sections by progressing further. If that seems daunting, just wait until you see the sequel. Los Angeles, True Crime Streets of LA.
Yeah!
The inclusion of massive maps may be more frequent in today's gaming spectrum, but that doesn't mean it's a new feature. Though Activision couldn't create an exact transfer of the real-world Los Angeles, they could at least get halfway. Covering most areas of the city, this somewhat golden oldie featured a map that spanned roughly 240 square miles. Players controlled a police officer as he investigated a series of bombings in the city. And as the crimes took him all over LA, it was necessary for the title to include as large a map as possible. The game may have received some justified critiques, but the size and depiction of the city wasn't one of them.
Crime alert, all units. Transient Vegas reported staging a fight contest for best panhandling spot.
Medici, Just Cause 3. This action franchise from Avalanche Studios was just one playground of destruction after another. So naturally, they each include a rather expansive map for gamers to explore. The third entry takes place on a fictional Mediterranean island and covers roughly 400 square miles. The appeal doesn't come from the story about a mercenary freeing his homeland from a dictatorship, but from how much freedom you're given when it comes to venturing into the unknown. The studio increased when you could roam in a vertical sense, letting you scale tall buildings or travel through caverns. It should be noted that the sequel features the same map size, just with more land and less water. Kaboom.
Acknowledged. Target is at large. Re-establish visual.
Dareth, Asheron's Call. Microsoft took the massively an MMORPG quite seriously when they published this title back at the turn of the millennium. Set on another fantastical continent on the fictional planet Oberyn, the PC title let players explore the land and several smaller islands seamlessly. This meant no load screens, which was a big deal at the time, especially considering the final size of the map was around 500 square miles. With frequent updates, fans were constantly piecing together the story of Dareth with new quests, lore, and environmental changes. It was a remarkable feat, to say the least, and players were given new things to do until the servers were eventually shut off after more than 17 years. EOS, Final Fantasy 15.
You're just gonna have to push her all the way.
I've already pushed myself to the brink of death.
This incredibly popular RPG series has come a long way since 1987, and not just in terms of world scale, though the latest entry in the main series nevertheless stunned in that regard. EOS is not unlike Earth, but is divided into 4 separate kingdoms. When Lucis's magical crystal is stolen by forces of the imposing Niflheim, it's up to the player to explore the dangers beyond the capital and reclaim it. This more realistic setting was a nice change of pace from previous entries, and driving around the content-filled world was immensely fun. With 700 square miles to fill, it had to be.
Don't know about you, but I'm ready as I'll ever be.
Take care on the long road.
The United States. The Crew and The Crew 2.
Well, look who it is. You've made your bones. Now you belong here.
While Ubisoft couldn't make an exact replica of the US in terms of size and distance, the fact that they recreated a scaled-down version should undoubtedly be commended. The Crew and its sequel are a duo of open-world racing games that let players speed across any state they desire. Though they don't feature the deepest of plots, the draw of multiple types of vehicles and terrain should satisfy those looking for an in-depth racer. The map size for each game is roughly 1,900 square miles, an amazing scope for any game to pull off.
For the final leg, let's go all out.
Post-apocalyptic America. Fuel. If this were a list about how well games use their large maps, this 2009 post-apocalyptic racer might not make the cut. But given that it's solely about size and that it covered a baffling 5,560 square miles, it easily takes the top spot. Though there wasn't much variety in terms of what it did with its space, the sheer scope and various environment types, ranging from mountains to deserts, make it worthy of your time regardless. Add on the fact that there were only loading screens if you crashed your vehicle, and Fuel features the most extraordinarily large video game world of all time!
Check out these other great clips from Mojoplays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.